I'm Alice Carlson with the local League of Women Voters, and we're here today to talk to you about the library. I'd like to give a little introduction to why the League is involved in this. First of all, our mission statement, the League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League takes political action on issues in which members have reached agreement. The League never supports or opposes any political party or candidate for elective office. The League does have a position based on study on the county library services. Our position reads, the League of Women Voters supports quality services for all county residents. Based on this position, we are supporting the ballot measure 6-196 on the May ballot. To explain the ballot measure and why they support it, we have two of the active supporters of the bond measure, Paula Bechtold and Ventgen. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I have some questions I'm supposed to ask you. Number one, why does the Coos Bay Public Library need to be replaced?
Basically, the library is failing structurally. It is pretty noticeable for people that frequent the library, and there also is a great need for expansion, which is not possible where it is. The city did bring in some architects to look at the possibility of repairing and expanding the library. And again, because of the underlying slough, it would be much too expensive if it was even possible to rebuild where it is and or to do the repairs. And there really is no room for expansion besides where it is sitting. And they basically just suggested, and the city council agreed, that it would be not appropriate to spend a lot of money repairing something that would then require the library to be closed in the meantime. And the architects were all very clear that this would truly be a waste of money. Money would be much better spent building from a brand new library in a much safer spot.
Right. It's the current building is in the tsunami inundation zone. When the tide is in, the water is directly underneath the slab of the building, and it's taken its toll over the decades. As Paula said, engineering studies have shown that yes, it could be renovated, but it would take approximately 2 years, and in the end, the building would still be an outdated building created in the 60s when library services were very different. So none of the architects or the engineers have recommended that option.
Okay. Please describe the library bond measure. Who would see the bond on their property taxes? What would it cost the property owner? And what would the money be used for?
Only the taxpayers within the city limits of Coos Bay would pay the tax and will vote on it. The taxpayers already pay a city bond of 44 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. That 44 cents will go to 97 cents per 1,000 if this measure is approved. And it will go to build the building and furnish it.
And the part that's currently being paid by the city taxpayers is for the fire hall. And when those bonds are paid off, then all of the money would go to pay for the library.
Okay. And does the bond represent the entire cost of the new facility, or is there some cost sharing involved?
Definitely cost sharing. It will not pay for everything. The city has urban renewal dollars available that will do site preparation and some other things like that. The Coos Bay Library Foundation is going to be raising money and has funding to help with the furnishing and fixtures. And every grant that's out there will be applied for that we can. Also, the building is going to have a 911 center next to the library, part of the building, sharing HVAC and other important elements, but will be separate operationally. But as it turns out, the 911 center in Coos Bay City Hall is out of room, cannot expand where it is. It's only in 500 square feet. It has taken on dispatching for other jurisdictions around the county, and it very much needs to go to a larger facility and a safer one that is outside the tsunami zone, when, like the library, it currently is inside that zone. And that will bring additional grant funds to the structure, because the 911 center would have access to grants that the library would not.
Okay. And what would the new library building provide to the community that the old one can't?
The biggest advantage to me is the fact that we'll be able to have a whole lot more conference space, more room for the materials, more increasing the size of the children's department, children's section and the teen section. And just the fact that there'll be the opportunity to have more outdoor activities when the weather permits, right there at the library. Instead of a parking lot, you're going to be having a park and a lake. And it's really exciting to think of people sitting and reading and looking out at the beautiful scenery. Just a whole lot more space. Already the library where it sits now has outgrown its current structure.
And more room for technology. The library really is keeping up with emerging technology, and so many people in the community now need to have access to free computers and help in using those computers. And their library is that, but we need more technology room for those.
The location chosen by the city council has proved controversial. That location, of course, is inside Toppets Park. Why was that site ultimately chosen over others?
The city of Coos Bay, in conjunction with the steering committee of library people and other entities within the city, like the Parks Department, did a thorough survey of properties starting in downtown. That was the location that was preferred. Discovered that there are no buildable lots in downtown area that are out of the tsunami zone, that are owned by the city or available for purchase. The city would have to spend additional taxpayer money to purchase such property, and that would actually be purchasing a number of individual homes. And obviously, no one wants to force people out of their homes. They could buy them from the folks, but nobody really wants to force anybody to sell. And so when that was discovered, the team moved on to looking in the Empire area and looked at a number of properties there that, again, were large enough, about 2 acres, buildable, and considered several, narrowed it down to the Toppets Park area. Looked at 3 in depth, had a couple of public meetings looking at all 3 of those, came up with the current location as being the best, that is not inside the park, as the question was assuming, but at the edge of it, just barely touching on a short section of the trail and on a ridge overlooking the lake and the main parking lot. So really everyone involved felt that it was an enhancement for the park to have the library there, and an enhancement for the library, as Paula was explaining, to be adjacent to the park.
So what happens to library services in Coos Bay if the bond measure doesn't pass?
The library where it sits now will function for a while. But there will come a time when
It will have to close. It's safe currently, but it continues to sink at an uneven rate. The north end of the building is actually a foot or so lower than the south end of the building. That's why there's a ramp so that the book carts can navigate from one side to the other, but it continues to sink at various rates. And the time will come when it's no longer safe to occupy. And I think those of us who are supporting it, our primary support is because we feel this community needs a public library. We have found that there are studies, there are realtors who tell us that any community where businesses want to locate or families want to relocate, they look for a community with a viable public library. And we want to be that, continuing to be that. And Coos Bay is growing, its library is growing, and we need a new up-to-date facility to do that.
You have anything you wanted to add to that, Paula?
well said.
Okay, so that's the end of my prepared questions. Do you have anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to tell the voters?
I think it's important for the voters to understand that the library is used by many people every single day that it's open. There's kind of a myth that people aren't reading anymore and people aren't going to libraries. And Carol already touched on the computer use, and there is a huge demand for the computers and help with the computers. But many young children are exposed to books for the first time. The programs that the library has conducted and will continue to have, especially in a new facility, we're bringing the public into the library for speakers, whether it's on the history, whether it's on reptiles, whether it's on, I can remember taking my kids in when the wildlife safari came with the little creatures from it's a vital place for our community. It's a community gathering place. Adults, seniors and adults and children all have different needs and different programs appeal to them, and it is used extensively. I don't have the numbers handy, but I know that the usage is tremendous. 137,000 items, 137,000 items were checked out of the Coos Bay Public Library last year. 80% were printed books.
Which is true all over the country. The demise of the book is simply not the case.
Oh, like Mark Twain's, like Mark Twain's death. It's just not true.
Yeah, and I want to echo what Paula said. I think one of the most important things the library does is instill a love of reading in young children, especially preschoolers who then are ready to learn when they get to school, because they've learned to love to read and they've gotten their feet wet doing it. And that's what the staff hears all the time at the library from the young families, is how vital that service is.
Well, I can't imagine a town without a library. I grew up in one. We went to the bookmobile, but in modern times, I can remember moving here and being so delighted with the Coos Bay Library. So we'll hope that people take advantage of the opportunity to learn more about this from the various sources. And thank you for being part of this today. And I know that as people see you on the street, they'll stop you and ask you questions.
I hope they do.
And this election is coming up soon, so please inform yourself and be ready to vote for the Coos Bay bond measure for the libraries.
Thanks for the opportunity to come and talk about it.
Thank you.